CNBC आवाज प्रस्तुत करता है क्रिप्टो कॉर्नर पावर्ड बाय बाइनेंस।
स्वागत है आपका हमारे साथ क्रिप्टो कॉर्नर पे आज सोलाना फाउंडेशन की कैथरीन यूं हैं। कैथरीन, बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ आज समय निकालने के लिए। स्टेबल कॉइन्स एक ऐसा एरिया है जहां पर पिछले 2 साल में काफ़ी काम होता हुआ नजर आया है और 2026 में हमने वो ग्रोथ, पार्टिसिपेशन, वॉल्यूम सभी बढ़ता हुआ देखा है। कैसे देखती हैं आप ये सेगमेंट?
Absolutely. I think the stablecoin trend, as you know, has really started since 2025, but it's going to take a while for the actual growth to take place, because I think around right now it's around $300 billion of market cap, but I do fully think that this market is really growing to the $1 trillion. So I think in the next few years, fully expect that the entire market capitalization around stablecoins is going to continue to grow. And the real good news is that, the usage of stablecoins is no longer just in sort of crypto trading in itself, but it's really spilling over into a lot of the real world economic use cases, whether that's in payments, whether that's in sort of investment type of things, which is why you're seeing that there's a lot more sort of flavors of stablecoin as well, if you will, because if I were to categorize the very beginning of stablecoins as more like a vanilla version, which is $1 backed, you're probably going to see stablecoins that's backed by other currencies, just like we expect G7, G20 different currencies that's being traded in the FX market. I fully expect in the future there's going to be more flavors of stablecoin, and it's going to be stablecoins that's pegged to other type of assets other than just fiat currencies. It could be commodities, it could be money market funds, it could be credit structure. So I think it's going to be really interesting going forward as we see the entire space of stablecoin.
स्टेबल कॉइन ऑफ कोर्स एक जरिया है कैथरीन, लेकिन अगर हम सोलाना फाउंडेशन की बात करें तो अपने डेवलपर प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपने मास्टर कार्ड, वेस्टर्न पेमेंट्स और साथ ही साथ वेस्टर्न यूनियन रादर और वर्ल्ड पे को यहाँ पर सिक्योर किया है। किस तरह से आप देखती हैं ये ऑफ कोर्स एक्विजिशन और आगे क्या प्लान्स हैं?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think we are very invested in growing the entire Solana ecosystem. And the bottom line is we really think about Solana as the underlying financial market infrastructure. That was how Solana was designed from day one. So our goal is to really have all the institutional growth and adoption to be happening directly on chain. And toolings that we have built, such as Solana developer platform, is aimed to attract financial institutions to let them start building things directly on chain as easy as possible, because part of the value proposition, if you will, within, say, the Solana developer platform is that everything is going to be entirely API based. So as a Web2 company coming onto chain to build, you don't actually need to acquire any new knowledge or skill set. In fact, you can just use APIs as you do today to start building things, whether that's, say, let me create a tokenization engine to say issue a stablecoin, to issue a tokenized deposit, or to issue, say, a tokenized commodities. And once I issue something, let me figure out how do I do the on-ramping and off-ramping in relation to the payments. All of the underlying, I would say, building blocks that is in the form of APIs are all provisioned to these customers through the Solana developer platform. So our goal is, as I said, to become the underlying financial market infrastructure that powers the future of finance, the future of capital markets down the road. And through toolings like SDP, we can really help to make that entire journey as smooth and as quickly as possible.
कैथरीन, साथ ही साथ अगले 5 साल की अगर बात की जाए तो किस तरह से आप देखती हैं फ्यूचर ऑफ मनी, और साथ ही साथ जिस तरह की डेवलपमेंट्स हमने ब्लॉकचेन एज अ टेक्नोलॉजी पे आते हुए देखी हैं, जो ये क्रॉस बॉर्डर पेमेंट्स हैं, उनकी क्या वॉल्यूम और आगे क्या ग्रोथ है?
Yeah, I think Solana is already handling a ton of traffic when it comes to stablecoin payments, and cross-border is one of the big use cases. I think as we're looking at cross-border payments right now, there's still a lot of friction points, right? Especially if you're looking at the larger B2B type of payments, there's a lots of inefficiencies in terms of the leverage of the money itself. And what I mean by that is, money might be parked or pre-funded for a few days before they even get used. And if you look at things like account receivables or account payables, we're looking at 30 days, 40 days lag time for which money actually get paid. So none of those things should actually be true down the road. And this is where blockchain really comes in to power that new kind of financial rail, new payment rail as you're building cross-border payments, and stablecoin is that instrument essentially to be conducted on that. So I would fully expect that there's going to be a lot more traffic in terms of stablecoin usage for cross-border payments, and Solana being cheap, fast, and very resilient is a perfect rail to facilitate a lot of these use cases. It's also borderless, right? In the sense that money can travel anywhere as you want, and blockchain powers that capability. So, one of the early use cases as we're seeing the usage of stablecoins is actually the usage outside of the United States. Why? Because there's a lot of demand for stablecoins, and the friction points in cross-border payments is actually in the rest of the world. So as we see the growth of blockchain, growth of stablecoin together to grow, continue down the road, I would very much think that we're going to see a lot of growth, especially in around emerging economies, as we're looking at the usage of stablecoin for cross-border payments.
कैथरीन, जब क्रॉस बॉर्डर पेमेंट्स की बात यहाँ पर आती है तो आई एम अज्यूमिंग कुछ कंट्रीज यहाँ पर बेहतर करती हैं एक दूसरे से, तो अगर हम इसको 3 हिस्सों में बांटें, आप कैसे देखती हैं यूएस, यूरोप एंड देन एशिया, जहाँ पर हम क्रॉस बॉर्डर पेमेंट्स ब्लॉकचेन पर बेहतर होता हुआ देख रहे हैं?
I think as of right now, if we're looking at the demand for stablecoins, and as of right now, stablecoins is 99%, I would say, denominated in dollar terms. I would say the largest demand for these stables are actually outside of the US. Namely, it's going to be in Europe because there's a big trading corridor between US and Europe. There's also a lot of demand, say, in Africa, in Asia countries, and also LATAM. So a good example is, when you look at in Argentina a few years back, when there's massive high inflation, there was actually a lot of demand for dollar stablecoins instead of the local currencies, because this is essentially a hedge towards the local inflation that people were suffering at the time. So that was a really good example in which emerging economies, driven by that underlying demand for dollar, therefore would leverage stablecoin for a lot of the use cases. We're also seeing a lot of fintech companies, by the way, creating these new products known as stablecoin financial accounts, or equivalent. What's interesting about that is basically to think that if you're an e-commerce company, say having a business in India or Vietnam, you no longer need to necessarily go to your local bank to create a sort of a dollar currency account, which could be really expensive to maintain. Well, rather instead, what you can do is having a wallet, set up a wallet very easily on Solana and open it up. And immediately you can already start accepting stablecoins. And once the stablecoins is being paid into your merchant account, you can then reinvest it into some sort of treasury management. There's a range of products available on Solana today as well. So suddenly you start to see this ecosystem that the money that is being generated directly on chain can stay on chain, and it can generate value again and again until the time that, say, you need to off ramp it to fiat, or you can even use that stablecoin to then pay your employees also in stablecoins. So it becomes very interesting kind of, I would say, positive cycle as we're seeing the different ecosystem part to grow. And I think that will benefit a lot of the emerging economies who are looking to really accelerate the growth together with the need or demand rather for dollar as well.
कैथरीन, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका हमारे लिए आज यहाँ पर समय निकालने के लिए। तो क्लियरली चाहे वो क्रॉस बॉर्डर पेमेंट्स हैं या फिर स्टेबल कॉइन्स हैं या फिर जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि ऑन चेनिंग है, यहाँ पर काफ़ी हद तक इंस्टीट्यूशंस की 2026 में हमने बढ़त आते हुए देखी है। वेल, इसी के साथ फिलहाल इस कार्यक्रम में इतना ही समय है, लेकिन ब्रेक के बाद खिलाड़ी नंबर 1 में आपका लाइव देंगे।
CNBC आवाज प्रस्तुत करता है क्रिप्टो कॉर्नर, पावर्ड बाय बाइनेंस।